All right. So now let's get to the. All right. Let's go straight to the war. All right.
Okay.
So we said. All right. So we said that Germany and Russia signed a non-aggression pact. All right. Signed a non-aggression. You won't attack me if I don't attack you. All right. So now Stalin was not dumb. He knew Hitler was going to come for him at some point. So that's why he signed it. And we had talked about that way back
Yep.
before because Stalin had killed many of his generals, and he wasn't really prepared for war at that time. But September 1st, 1939, beginning of World War II, and that's when Hitler invaded Poland from the east. I thought from the west, and Russia from the east. All right, and we hear the famous words that he used, um, called the Blitzkrieg,
Lightning warfare.
combination of using Air Force, the bomb first, then you bring in the tanks, and then the troops right below, right underneath them.
Yep.
All right, and so it didn't take him long to knock down Poland. So that was so now after that,
Safely.
yes, and so afterwards, um, Germany, not Germany, France and England declared war on Germany. Only problem is that when you declare the war, you're a thousand you're thousands of miles away. So they weren't able to help Poland at all
Yeah.
during that time.
Other side of the continent.
All right. So at some point, though, well, we also know. I mean, rather than going down the countries that he conquered, at some point he didn't realize that he could have stopped. He could have stopped himself, and Germany could have. He could have just won. He could have just won the war by just standing pat, because we do know he took France within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He had England near the point where they could have surrendered. The United States wasn't in the war yet until 2 years later.
No. Yeah.
So there was a point in which he had basically all of Europe,
Except the Soviet Union.
right, except the Soviet Union. So now we know about his hatred for the Russians. What made
And
him?
then
What made him decide to invade Russia? Because people
Lebanon.
have tried,
Yeah.
going back to like the 1200s. They tried, but Russia is hard to beat for one reason.
The winter.
Oh yes, the two famous generals that you can never beat in Russia: General January and General February. No one's beaten them yet.
No.
Nope, that's true. So what else? Let me see. So Operation Barbarossa was Germany's invasion into Russia, and he did move quickly through Russia, despite what his generals told him that it was a bad idea, and it looked pretty good for a while until we had just mentioned the winter hit and everything froze down. He figures he can sit tight, and when the spring comes, they can attack. Unfortunately, he didn't get that opportunity because Stalin, that gave Stalin time to reorganize himself and start
Yep.
pushing the Germans back. So now he's got now Germany is on the run. You would think that Hitler would order his troops to retreat. Nope.
Nope.
He wanted them to fight to the last man.
You stay.
But there were many attempts on Hitler's life. So they say there was about 40 attempts on his life.
Wow.
Because at some point the generals knew that Germany was losing, and there was no way that they didn't want to lose everything. So they figured they had to try to get rid of him. But see, that should be a lesson for all people that want to be dictators. There's always going to be somebody who wants your spot.
Yeah.
And also, the thing is, when you start interfering in how people make money, and how you affect their livelihood, take you out, or at least they're going to try
Exactly.
to.
Exactly.
So now we got the German retreating. Um, the United States is in the war at this point, and they're marching through France on their way to Germany. So now the circle for Hitler is closing in. He knows that at some point he gives up. Who does he blame? Does he blame himself?
No.
Yeah. He he says the reason why he lost or he's losing, he blames the generals, he blames the German people. And when he's facing the end, he says he dies with a joyous heart. Good luck with that.
Oh,
But
he went to Argentina.
say that again. You said
He
he went to
escaped war.
Argentina.
Yeah. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about that.
Are you saying?
They never found his body.
Well, they do have a burnt body. They have burnt bodies. I've I've heard,
Right.
I've heard theories like that. He could have now, in theory, he could have escaped if he wanted.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, let's say, a lot of theories, what you call it, not that hasn't necessarily been proven one way or the other. I mean, for this historical for this historical podcast, we have to say that he died. Um,
Yeah.
you know, he died April 30th of 1940,
Really fun.
45, right? Um, he shot himself. His wife, he married Eva Braun. His wife, she took poison, but there have been numerous. I've heard that I say when I was your age, that he might have escaped and went to Argentina and lived out his life. Might have died in the 60s, something like that. But that hasn't been proven. But there were other Nazi criminals that did escape,
Yep.
and some were caught, most were not.
Yeah. In
But, but
fact, Hitler's inner circle, many of them did survive the war and went on to go to the Nuremberg trials.
yes,
And one of them, Hermann Göring, who was the captain of industry and in charge of the Air Force, said he did nothing wrong. He was
of course.
just telling his men to follow orders.
Of course, that's their that's always the MO for those people in power. They claim they didn't do anything wrong. I was going under orders, but you were a leader, and I can understand the soldiers. The soldiers have to follow orders, but you're the leader giving the orders, which makes you just as guilty. Matter of fact, more guilty than anyone else. But and Justin wrapping this up, he was the most hated man of the 20th century, and unfortunately, his life, which we only grazed on it, his life is a blueprint, has been a blueprint for other so-called wannabe dictators to be like him. In other words, you get the power, okay? Then you want to blame someone else. You want to use other people's fear. You want to create fear. You create fear and hatred for other people, blaming them for why you're not succeeding. And then when all else fails, you want to definitely make sure that you get rid of all your enemies by any means necessary, which is, and of course, he got the end that he deserved. However,
Absolutely. Yeah. But unfortunately, his legacy scarred a whole generation. We haven't even discussed the Holocaust and all the killings he done.
yes,
Not just the Jews, but Gypsies, Slavs, ethnic minorities, his own people.
yes,
Yeah.
because he obviously he didn't care, and dictators don't care. They don't they don't care about people, but they want to give you the illusion that they're about to.
Yeah.
All they are is about the 1%, the people that are giving money to finance. Because we definitely didn't talk about that either. There were how did Hitler go from being homeless to rich? He was financed.
Yeah.
He got put in power, and he was financed by the millionaires that were in Germany. They knew what they were doing, putting him in. And it's like I said, it's the same blueprint for every country that has an authoritarian. They the millionaires in this case, or in today's time would be the billionaires. They fund people that can get their programs going. They can make more money. For some strange reason, those people with 100, 200 billion dollars don't think they have money. They want more. That's
The
what.
empty side.
But that's for another time. All right.
Yeah.
So, hey, other than the interruption that we had for a few minutes, it's been great. Our next killer of the past will come from China.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Chiang Kai-shek. And we have a lot of information on him. So I thank all those people were watching this, and guarantee that the next one will even be even more interesting than this one.
Thanks for watching.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
We're gonna be legal this time.
I'll be sure to cut out the technical difficulties.
Yes, no problem. All right. Have a good night.
All right, take care. Bye bye.
Bye.